this episode, we focus on a topic that can feel dry at first, but becomes powerful once you understand it: outcome-based metrics. In security programs, people often do a lot of work, send a lot of messages, and complete a lot of tasks. Yet leaders still ask a simple question that is hard to answer. Are we actually safer, and are we getting better over time? Outcome-based metrics help you answer that question without guessing, because they measure results rather than just activity. They also help you steer, because metrics are not only for reporting after the fact, they are for deciding whether to continue, adjust, or change direction. The phrase "guide pivots" matters because security environments change, and a program that cannot pivot is a program that will drift out of alignment with mission and risk. Beginners often think metrics are only for compliance or dashboards, but in good governance, metrics are tools for learning and decision-making. When you define metrics well, you make progress visible, you build trust with stakeholders, and you give yourself an early warning system when an initiative is not working the way you expected. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyberauthor.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. An outcome-based metric is one that reflects a real-world change in risk, resilience, or behavior that matters to mission outcomes. This is different from an activity metric, which counts what you did, such as how many trainings were assigned or how many policies were published. Activity metrics can be useful, but they do not prove impact by themselves, because you can be busy without improving outcomes. Outcome metrics are closer to the results that the organization values, such as reduced downtime, faster detection and response, fewer repeat incidents, fewer high-risk exceptions, or improved recovery performance. For beginners, a helpful way to think about it is that activity metrics measure motion, while outcome metrics measure movement toward a goal. Motion can happen in place, like running on a treadmill, while movement changes where you are. Outcome metrics show whether you are actually moving. If you want to prove progress, you need measures that connect to what harm is being reduced or what capability is becoming more reliable. Before you pick metrics, you need to define what success means for the program or initiative, because metrics should be chosen to reflect that success. If your initiative is improving recovery readiness, success might mean you can restore critical services within defined time targets and with predictable steps. If your initiative is improving access governance, success might mean fewer inappropriate privileges, faster removal of access, and more consistent review decisions. If your initiative is improving detection, success might mean improved visibility, faster triage, and fewer undetected events. These success definitions must be in plain language, not vague words like better or stronger. Once success is defined, metrics become easier to select because you are simply asking what observable signals would show that success is happening. Beginners should understand that a metric is not a goal by itself. It is a measurement that helps you judge progress toward a goal. If you have no clear goal, the metric will either be meaningless or will drive behavior in the wrong direction. One of the strongest outcome areas to measure is time, because time is often the difference between a manageable incident and a major incident. In security programs, time-based measures might include time to detect suspicious activity, time to triage and confirm whether something is real, time to contain an event, or time to restore a service after disruption. These time measures connect directly to impact because faster detection and response often reduce how much damage is done. They also highlight process weaknesses because long times usually indicate confusion, lack of visibility, unclear ownership, or insufficient staffing for certain tasks. For beginners, it helps to remember that speed without accuracy is not helpful, so time metrics should be paired with quality signals, like whether alerts are meaningful or whether containment actions are correct. Still, time is a powerful way to show progress because it is concrete and understandable. Leaders may not understand every technical control, but they understand the difference between resolving an incident in hours versus days. That makes time-based outcome metrics persuasive and practical. Reliability is another outcome area that matters, because an unreliable control is almost the same as no control during real stress. Reliability metrics focus on whether a capability works consistently when needed. For example, recovery reliability can be measured by the success rate of restore tests, not just by the existence of backups. Detection reliability can be measured by how consistently critical systems produce usable logs and whether alerts are reviewed within an expected window. Access governance reliability can be measured by whether reviews happen on schedule and whether they lead to real changes when problems are found. Reliability metrics help guide pivots because they reveal whether an initiative is producing dependable results or only occasional success. Beginners often assume that if a process exists, it works, but reliability metrics reveal the difference between a process that is written and a process that is operational. When you track reliability, you can identify drift early, which is when fixes are easier. This is how metrics prevent quiet decay of controls over time. Another important outcome area is reduction of repeated problems, because repeat issues often signal that root causes have not been addressed. For example, if the same type of misconfiguration keeps happening, you might be missing clear standards, training, or automated checks. If the same policy violations keep appearing, you might be missing clarity, adoption support, or realistic policy design. If similar incidents repeat, you might be missing a core capability like monitoring, patching, or access control. A metric that tracks recurrence, such as how often a specific issue reappears after it is addressed, can show whether improvements are sticking. This is valuable for guiding pivots because if recurrence stays high, the initiative may be treating symptoms rather than causes. Beginners should note that recurrence metrics require consistent categorization, meaning you need a way to describe incidents or issues in comparable terms over time. Without that, recurrence becomes hard to measure. When categorization improves, recurrence metrics can highlight where the program should invest next to break cycles of repeated pain. Outcome-based metrics must be designed carefully to avoid unintended incentives because metrics can shape behavior in ways you might not expect. If you only measure speed, teams might close tickets quickly without solving the underlying issue. If you only measure number of incidents, teams might underreport to keep numbers low. If you only measure completion rates, people might complete tasks superficially. This is why outcome metrics often work best as balanced sets where one metric checks another. For example, you can track time to triage but also track triage accuracy, such as how often an initial classification was correct. You can track incident counts but also track reporting channels and near misses to ensure reporting remains healthy. You can track access review completion but also track the quality of decisions, such as how many reviews resulted in meaningful access changes when needed. Beginners should learn that metrics are not just instruments, they are incentives, and good governance anticipates incentive effects. A well-designed metric set guides behavior toward real improvement rather than toward gaming. Leading indicators are essential in outcome measurement because many important outcomes change slowly or are influenced by randomness. A major breach might not happen for a long time, which does not necessarily mean security is good, and it might happen unexpectedly even if security is improving. Leading indicators are measures that tend to move before outcomes, giving you early signals. For example, increased coverage of logging on critical systems is a leading indicator for improved detection. Increased restore test success is a leading indicator for improved resilience. Reduced number of orphaned accounts is a leading indicator for improved access control. These leading indicators can still be outcome-based if they reflect real capability improvements rather than mere activity. For beginners, the key is to choose leading indicators that are tightly connected to the outcome you care about. Otherwise, you might track something that moves but does not affect risk. When leading indicators are well chosen, they allow you to pivot earlier, which reduces wasted effort. Defining outcome metrics also means defining baselines, because you cannot prove progress without knowing where you started. A baseline is simply the current measurement before improvements are made, and it can be imperfect at first. Many organizations begin with limited visibility, so early baseline work might involve improving measurement itself. That is normal, but you should be honest about it. If your baseline is uncertain, you acknowledge that the first phase includes establishing measurement reliability. Beginners sometimes feel uncomfortable admitting baseline gaps, but pretending you have precise measurement when you do not will harm credibility later. A better approach is to treat measurement maturity as part of the program. Once you have a baseline, you can set realistic improvement targets, like reducing a response time by a certain amount or increasing coverage from a certain level to a higher level. Targets help guide pivots because they provide a reference point for whether the initiative is on track. If progress stalls, you can ask why and adjust. Another important part of defining metrics is deciding the cadence and audience, because metrics that arrive too rarely cannot guide pivots, and metrics that arrive too often can become noise. Operational teams might need frequent metrics to manage day-to-day work, while executives might need monthly or quarterly summaries that show trends and impact. The same underlying data can be summarized differently for different audiences. For example, an executive might see a trend line of recovery performance for critical services, while a technical team might see detailed results from restore tests to guide specific improvements. Beginners should understand that a metric is not just a number. It is information package for a decision maker. If the metric is not tied to a decision, it may not be worth collecting. When you align cadence and audience, metrics become a living part of governance rather than a dead report. Guiding pivots requires that metrics be tied to action thresholds, meaning you decide what changes in behavior when the metric moves. For example, if time to triage increases beyond an acceptable range, the team might adjust alert rules, add staffing coverage, or improve escalation paths. If restore success drops, the team might pause other initiatives and focus on fixing the backup and recovery process. If exception requests spike, the team might revisit policy clarity, training, or process design. The key is that the metric triggers a conversation and a decision, not just an observation. Beginners should learn that pivoting is not failure, it is learning. A metric that reveals an issue early is valuable because it prevents long periods of effort that do not deliver outcomes. When metrics are connected to thresholds and actions, the program becomes adaptive, which is the hallmark of maturity. Defining outcome-based metrics is ultimately about proving progress in a way that is honest, meaningful, and useful for steering. Outcome metrics connect to mission impact and real risk reduction, while leading indicators provide early signals that guide adjustments. Reliable measurement requires baselines, clear definitions, and awareness of incentives so metrics drive the right behavior. When you build a balanced set of metrics, you can show leadership that security work produces real results, and you can show teams that their efforts are changing outcomes, not just creating activity. Most importantly, metrics allow the program to pivot responsibly when reality changes or when an approach does not work as expected. For beginners, the central idea is that security is not just a set of controls, it is a managed process of improvement. Outcome-based metrics are the feedback loop that makes that management possible. When you can measure outcomes and steer with confidence, your program becomes calmer, more credible, and more effective over time.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.